And we are back after a very long hiatus. This time it's going to only be me flying solo for this podcast. Not how we wanted it. We did do a whole podcast, and needless to say, OBS and Discord decided against the. It decided that rather than letting us have an hour podcast, it should be an 8-minute podcast. So needless to say, that whole recording got corrupted. Um, I think I found the fix. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But I didn't want to make Zed and Alchemist go through another Godzilla podcast over the same thing all over again. I may love Godzilla to death. They are good enough friends to humor my Godzilla fandom. Don't want to push my luck. So this one will be me flying solo. Sorry about that, folks. And for this one, I like for those on what YouTube, you're probably seeing a background on fire, which is how I felt when that whole recording got destroyed. Oh, two Godzillas, too many. To be fair, technically, this is like the fourth Godzilla. I mean, we got the original, the primary one, Manila, and now this mysterious one. So while I may think multiple Godzillas are great, this is one too many for most people. So let's just do the big reveal. It is none other than Mechagodzilla. So, to get onto his stats, Mechagodzilla from the Showa era is 50 meters tall, the same height as Godzilla, 40,000 metric tons. It is very good in close range combat. Um, One of its noteworthy feature is the space beam or I beams, where Mechagodzilla fired a rainbow color optical laser called a space beam. This is capable of time with Godzilla atomic breath, so it's nothing to scoff at. Another thing that it has is missiles. It is decked to the T with missiles, from foot missiles to finger missiles to a missile hatch on its neck. This thing is decked out in missiles. Um, Other than the missile, it also has a cross attack beam, a shutter on its chest that can open up, revealing a laser that's capable of cutting through large rock formation. And one final thing that it has is the Unishot, or its sharpened blade tail. Honestly, never even realized that was sharp in all my time looking at it. But there you go. An additional feature is the Desto Fire. It is capable of emitting a 500,000 degrees Celsius bullet, flaming bullet from its mouth, from its nose. Sorry, not mouth, nose. Which, during the previous podcast, we found out was as hot as the surface of the sun. So, yeah, that's some. Never really used it in. I think it appears on several covers, but he never used it in the movies. It's only ever used in the video games. The and one of its final ability is flight. Is capable of it possesses jet and is capable of propelling itself through the air at Mach 5, and it still have access to many of its weaponry while midair, such as the space beam. Let's see. Oh, and of course, the final note: Mechagodzilla is equipped with a antenna and radar that is capable of locating things, namely enemies, underwater or underground. Its body is entirely made up of space titanium, a extraterrestrial element with the strength 10 times that of regular steel. And, of course, one of the things I have loved about Mechagodzilla is head rotation. Its head is capable of rotating 360 degrees horizontally, so it's able to see opponents from both up in front and behind and attack in either direction. And if its head spin at high frequency, it can generate the defense neo barrier, where a giant force field appear around it, allowing it to um protect itself from physical and um, projectile attacks. One last ability that you only ever see in the 1993 arcade game is teleportation. I just had to include it because, I mean, this thing is already a walking arsenal, and now you're going to give it the power of teleportation as well. With all of those armaments and weaponry, one can only wonder how can Godzilla stand against such a formidable foe. But the good news about this is in the first encounter with Mechagodzilla, he's not alone. We have another monster to name off, namely King Caesar. Oh, King Caesar. Pronunciation, I, be- I believe you can pronounce this both ways. Caesar is how we would pronounce it in the West, but in all the Japanese movies, I've always heard Caesar. So, always just figured that was how the Japanese pronounced it. Anyway, King Caesar, he is 50 meters tall, 30,000 metric tons. He is very, very formidable in close range combat. He is extremely fast and extremely strong. Oftentimes charging in, attacking his opponent. In later films and comics, he would be very agile, capable of doing kicks, and almost martial art. But we'll get to that movie soon enough. Well, not soon enough, really. Other than that, its legs have the ability to jump up to 1,000 yards. And in some games, they admit that the crown above his head is a very powerful fighting weapon. Never really seen that much in games. But other than that, King Caesar is also amphibious. He despite being having stone on his body, he is capable of swimming throughout the sea at very considerable rate. One of his main ability is the eye beams or prismatic eyes or prism eyes. A very unique ability. He can absorb enemies' energy beam attacks and then fire them back at his opponent with double the power. The mechanism for it, if you're looking on YouTube, is taken from the Godzilla Monster Anatomical Encyclopedia, which depict him as having a prism beam sac in the upper torso, which is connected to his eyes. Again, games never really go. I mean, not games. The movie never really go much into this. But since this is from an official Toho source, I'm going to include that. It's also kind of strange. We hopped on this a little bit because in the diagram it showed him with golden bones, looking almost from the inside as a kind of metallic cyborg looking creature. Archimage even asked me if it was a cyborg. I almost compared it more to a organic golem. And I kind of always saw King Caesar as something more than a creature, but not technically a cyborg or a automaton. Hard to say. King Caesar always have struck me as a more of a creature than a robotic, as a robot or a golem, just because of how it behaves. And that brings me to the next thing of King Caesar intelligence. He is a fairly intelligent monster. Most monsters usually just run headfirst into enemies' attack. He actually has a big sense of self-preservation. King Caesar do try to avoid attacks and projectile. If it's seen that the enemy is a range fighter and have a lot of range attacks, it will either try to close the distance or seek cover and run in between cover, trying to have the enemy waste their attacks. Which kind of hop to the point, I don't think it's really robotic only because of that fact, because most robotic things aren't described as something that has a huge sense of self-preservation. Not always the case, but for this one at least. One last thing for those who were listening, King Caesar's role is a slightly sped up version of King Kong's role from King Kong versus Mechagodzilla. Um, the only difference is it has a lion growl added into it, and the lion growl was taken from the Ultra series. Let's see. Now let's get into possibly my favorite, if not definitely my favorite of the Showa era, if not my favorite of the entire. I think it may just be my favorite Godzilla movie of all time. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1974. I still have the VHS cover on the far right hand side for those looking on YouTube. Basically, the way this story goes, on Okinawa, there's a ceremony being held. One of the descendant of a royal family is doing a traditional dance when she suddenly have visions of a destroyed Japan, and she tell her grandfather of that monsters are coming to destroy Japan. And then we move on to our hero who is in a cave exploring when he find a piece of space titanium. He doesn't know where it is. He basically take it to his friend, the professor, who along with a statue that they have found as well while excavating through the Okinawan cave. Um, they don't know. They don't exactly know what to make of everything, but they also found a prophecy to go with the statue. When a black mountain appears above the clouds, a monster will appear and to try to destroy the world. But when the red moon set and the sun rise in the west, two monsters will appear to save the people. And needless to say, the prophecy start kicking off. The black mountain above the clouds is smoke. Or at least we interpret it as smoke. It is essentially some type of black cloud or black smoke in the sky. And needless to say, one of the monsters showing up to attack is Godzilla, and he is met in combat by Anguirus. Yes, this is one of the few times we will get Anguirus back. He's attacking Godzilla. All the people regard it as strange, as Anguirus is the friend of Godzilla. Why would they fight each other? And needless to say, Zed and Archimedes were like, well, maybe it's a friendly sparring match. And that was until I showed the next image of how that sparring match end with this Godzilla breaking the jaw of Anguirus, in one of the most traumatizing thing to see if you watch this as a child like I did, because there's a lot of blood in this one. Honestly thought he was dead until he started crawling off in defeat. This Godzilla continued its rampage leading up to a refinery, and during this time at the refinery, they ultimately clash with the other Godzilla. During the fight, this Godzilla is revealed to be a robotic version of Godzilla, a Mecha Godzilla. They have a energy beam class with Mecha Godzilla eye beams versus Godzilla atomic breath. Its class, the explosion, leave Mecha Godzilla damaged, and he has to fly off for repairs. And Godzilla is blown into the sea with nothing more than blood bubbling up from the water. They assume that he could be dead. We flash forward a little bit with them taking a cruise to, I think they was going to see the professor. They were going somewhere. And during this cruise, they are attacked. This whole time, I kind of been neglecting the human angle, but this whole time, basically, they've been getting stalked by a lot of people. People with shades, people hiding in the shadows. One of them steal the statue. And during the scuffle and the confusion, gun go off, he get injured, and it's revealed it's Planet of the Apes, pretty much. He's revealed to be an alien, a part ape alien. These are, and I'll get this wrong, but these are the aliens from the planet 3 from the black hole. Basically, they are the third planet from a black hole. They have come in. They want the statue for some reason. They have been building Mechagodzilla. He tries to get the statue. He jumps into the sea thinking he has it, taking it with him to his grave, only for it to be revealed that the hero had made duplicates of the statue. The duplicate was in their room, which the alien has stolen, while the real statue was with the captain in his private safe. It was a very clever move, in my opinion. Never thought the hero would do something that clever. Um, they meet up and rendezvous with the professor, only to find out he's been captured by the aliens. The aliens have been using the professor to try to rebuild and strengthen Mechagodzilla. Um, they, let's see. After being it's the Black Hole Planet 3 aliens. There we go. Knew I would get the name eventually. Basically, after they're brought to after the heroes are captured, they're thrown in prison with the professor and taking a page out of the James Bond villain book. They decide to kill them in the slowest way possible, steaming them to death. Okay. I leave it to space apes to decide to kill humanity in the slowest way possible by steaming them to death. Possibly the most inhumane. Well, I don't know. We'll get into that for another day. Anyway, they are saved again by the same mysterious figure. He's an agent of Interpol. They managed to get out of the facility, and they realize the Interpol agent has to go back in because he has to stop whatever they're doing. The professor and one of the heroes want to go in there with them. The professor feel guilty for helping them with Mechagodzilla, despite the fact that they had him imprisoned under duress, and I think they threatened his daughter, if I'm not mistaken. So he want to go in, make amends. Needless to say, once they go in, they get captured. The other group of heroes goes to the Okinawan temple to return the statue of King Caesar. They quickly realized that the statue they found was to summon King Caesar, and that would start helping to fulfill the prophecy. They get ambushed there by the space apes, the Planet 3 aliens, and needless to say, they're able to gun them down. This is a very bloody Godzilla movie too. Pause the reason probably why I liked it so much. And they put the prophecy start to fulfill itself more. The two suns is one sun rising as the moon is setting, and there's a mirage off the moon that make it look red. They put the statue up top, on top of the altar. It fires a beam, blows open the mountainside, revealing King Caesar is sleeping dormantly. And then we get the longest song in a Godzilla movie, as the original priestess, the descendant of the royal family from Okinawa, has to sing to awaken King Caesar. And he only will hear her plea because he's one of the last descendants of the royal family. She sings for what feel like ever, and he awakened. He began to fight with Mechagodzilla. He's holding his own, but eventually Mechagodzilla is proven to be far stronger than him, namely because of how armed he is with his missiles and all of his attacks. And needless to say, the second monster from the prophecy shows up with Godzilla. They both try to tag team Mechagodzilla 2v1, and unfortunately, they are again thoroughly beaten back. They are not able to withstand the fury that is Mechagodzilla. And eventually they get blasted by Mechagodzilla. He released the full arsenal on King Caesar, and Godzilla take the brunt of it, leading to him almost being killed. But then, during one of the earlier scenes that I didn't bring up, Godzilla, it showed that Godzilla was not only alive, but he was allowing himself to get struck by lightning. It was a very strange thing, because in previous iteration of Godzilla, he's weak to lightning and electricity. But in this one, it not only makes him stronger, it gives him the power of magnetism. So, Godzilla become Magneto and uses newfound power of magnetism to pull Mechagodzilla into him so he can hold him, while him and King Caesar give him the beating of a lifetime. And Godzilla ultimately rips off Mechagodzilla's head. And that is the end of Mechagodzilla for this movie. Of course, the Black Hole Planet 3 aliens have to go full out James Bond. They blow up their base. The heroes escape, and all is right with the world for now, for at least 1 year. Now, to get on to the King Caesar comic book. This is called Godzilla, the Complete Monster and Protectors. This comic is clearly geared towards children. I think even on Amazon it's advertised as being for kids, 6 through 12 or something like that. I decided to include it, one, because this is one of the few that focuses with King Caesar being kind of the main characters, even though he doesn't show up to like the last couple issues. But basically, the Zillions are invading. They use a new type of psychic technology to probe the mind of every human on Earth to try to figure out about Godzilla so they can help King Ghidorah beat it in battle. Ultimately, during this whole little psychic experiment, several kids get psychically linked with Godzilla. The main one being the name being Cedric, Emily, and Anderson. Cedric is the one who kind of take the strongest bond from this psychic link. And eventually they kind of get a good idea of what's going on. They send Godzilla go out to fight with King Ghidorah. The first match is a draw, and then then one of the other students from Okinawan just happened to be a descendant of the family that can control and summon King Caesar. C managed to summon King Caesar for the second encounter. This is one of the few times we get to see King Caesar going up against another monster, namely King Ghidorah. He is a fair match for him with his speed and agility. He is able to get in some good physical strikes in on King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah's gravitational beam is a beam attack, so King Caesar can absorb it and shoot it right back at King Ghidorah with even more power. But he is slowly being overwhelmed when none other but Godzilla shows up. They team up. This is an easy battle for them. It's Godzilla and King Caesar. There's very few people. I mean, if they could take Mechagodzilla, they can take King Ghidorah. Not to say King Ghidorah is a slouch, but that's a lot for King Ghidorah does not do well against 2-on-1. Yeah, really, most of his movie. But okay, debate for another day. And of course, this is a kid's book, so they have to teach a message. And the two kids are at each other's throat for most of the comics. They realize that they're still psychically linked to the monsters, and their anger is causing the monster to fight one another. They manage to tell them to calm down. They resolve their issues, and the monsters leave and return from whence they came. And that's pretty much it. Again, as a kid's comic book, it's not bad. It's a good kid's comic book. But at the same time, most of the Godzilla comic books I'm used to reading generally are 13 and up. They're more adult-oriented, dealing with bigger subjects such as, people dying from the monster attacks, or people getting cancer from the radiation Godzilla leaves behind. So this one really is just straight up a kids one. Good for kids, not good for adults. But unfortunately, for this next movie, I'm sorry, King Caesar, you won't be able to help the big G anymore, so you gotta go. Because now it's gonna be a 2 versus 1 in Mechagodzilla's favor, and we gotta bring in the next monster to describe the largest Earth monster in the Showa era, Titanosaurus. possibly the largest in the Heisei era as well. I need to get an actual measurement for because I know it shows up in the comic books all the time with Heisei monsters, and it seems to be taller than them. So, but anyway, I digress. Let's get on to the stats. It lies 60 meters tall, 30 metric tons. It is, for all purposes, just dinosaur. Where a lot of the other monsters are atomic monsters or cyborgs or alien creature, this is just a regular dinosaur, a very, very big one. It is physically extremely strong. It jaw alone is capable of biting down on Godzilla and lifting him up into the sky. He is capable of kicking Godzilla clear across over a mountain range. It's no slouch. It definitely deserves the name Titanosaurus in both size and strength. Another thing to note is it's very strong. It's very strong at jumping. It's capable of jumping so high that it can just literally swat jets out of the sky. Um, One final thing to note if you're looking on YouTube is the tail. The tail fan. It can open up and it can start fanning its tails and produce winds that can reach up to speeds of 320 meters per second. Um, One thing, and another thing to note that me and the guys hit upon was um, when I told them that Titanosaurus is essentially the height of five Tyrannosaurus Rexes, with T Rexes being at 12 feet tall, not 12 feet, 12 meters tall. Archimedes brought in the facts and said, well, the reason that he asked me if they were measured from head to tail, and I'm like, yes. He's like, okay, that explain it, because dinosaurs back then, they thought they stood more upright and the tail dragged on the ground. Nowadays, we know that they use the tails as a counterbalance. But this was also a good point, because those looking at Titanosaurus, Godzilla, Gorosaurus, they know that all these monsters stand more upright, even though they're based off of dinosaurs. And it all makes sense now, because this whole reflection of dinosaurs using their tails as counterbalance wouldn't really come along to more modern times, like what, 1980, 1990 type stuff, and with things like Jurassic Park making it more mainstream. So it makes sense now that you would see a bunch of Godzilla monsters based off of dinosaurs standing very upright. It was a very nice little piece of lore. Other thing to bring up was, for all intents and purposes, Titanosaurus is a very shy and isolated creature. It spent most of its life avoiding contact and just surviving from ancient times. And if it was never mind controlled, probably would remain that way. So feel a little bit bad for Titanosaurus. It is an amphibious creature capable of swimming up to speeds of 200 kilometers per hour. In addition to being able to walk on land. Its only real weakness is supersonic waves that interfere with the control mechanism. But that's only when it's being controlled. So outside of that, I don't think it's really weak to supersonic waves if it's not being controlled. Its distinct role is a modified role from a kaiju from episode 6 of Ultraman Ace. Other than that, let's get on to the next movie, namely Terror of Mechgodzilla 1975. This is literally set 1 year after the events of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Interpol has sent a sub to try to get the wreckage of Mechagodzilla. When Mechagodzilla was defeated, it blew up, blowing Godzilla into the sea, possibly taking some of the wreckage with it. During their expedition, they get attacked by a giant mysterious monster, namely Titanosaurus, which destroyed the sub. They then realize that they used to have a scientist who was very clever, doing research trying to make a device that can control creatures such as animals. The scientist would later be laughed at when he announced that he discovered a dinosaur far larger than anything they've ever seen before, and that he would control it. Granted, the control part was a bit of a stretch, but I mean, controlling it. The scientist's name was Dr. Mifune. I mean, yeah, this control is a bit of a stretch, but in a world where Godzilla technically exists, I feel they was a little bit harsh on them, not believing him, casting him out, where he would die of obscurity as on official record. The heroes go, they meet with his daughter. She tell him, that he died, that Dr. Mifune died, and that she burnt all of his notes. It's later revealed in the next scene that not only is Dr. Mifune alive, but he's perfected his technology of the control device, put it on Titanosaurus, and was responsible for the attack on the sub. It's then that the benefactor who helped fund his research revealed himself to be the Black Hole Planet 3 aliens, and that they have rebuilt Mechagodzilla and they want his assistance. He decided to do it because he hates humanity after how they ostracized them, chased them away. Granted, he was very obsessive, but we'll get into that. He helps them rebuild Mechagodzilla's head. As they're talking, there's a little offhanded comment saying that the only thing that limits Mechagodzilla is he doesn't have the mind of a human to have creativity that would make him truly unbeatable. We then get a flashback talking about how Dr. Mifune's wife died during the time when he was a recluse. He continued his research, and eventually it would cost the life of his daughter when they were on the edge of getting the device ready. His daughter would get killed in an accident. The scientists from the black hole aliens will come in, save his daughter by turning her into a cyborg, and thus ensuing his loyalty. We then get another scene where Interpol will send another sub down to investigate with Titanosaurus. During the encounter, they realize that their sonar, the frequency on their sonar is causing it much harm to Titanosaurus, and decide to use that to get away. Dr. Mifune, in his anger, wanted to get back at Interpol, send Titanosaurus to attack the city when none other but Godzilla shows up to stop him. The confrontation is tough, but Godzilla clearly have the upper hand. Maybe in the water, Titanosaurus would have a better chance. During the encounter, Dr. Mifune's daughter gets shot and fallen off a cliff into the ocean. Dr. Mifune wanted to save his daughter, send Titanosaurus to go rescue her. She is injured, so the black hole aliens must rebuild her again, making her even more of a cyborg, more robotic than ever. Seemed like her personality is almost lost when she do come to. They also decide to put the control device for Mechagodzilla in her, deciding one, as long as she's alive, Mechagodzilla will be able to function, and two, her being able to have access and control Mechagodzilla will give Mechagodzilla access to human creativity, which may make it even more of a threat to Godzilla and the planet. They launched their attack with Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla. Them working together is enough to overwhelm Godzilla, including with Titanosaurus knocking Godzilla clear over a mountain range, Mechagodzilla blasting the tar out of Godzilla, Titanosaurus picking Godzilla up and flinging him around. Eventually, it leads to him being literally buried alive as Titanosaurus do a little jig on top of his soon-to-be grave. But soon enough, the agents from Interpol perfect their sonar weapon. They come flying in, attacking Titanosaurus, chasing him off, which allowed Godzilla to dig his way out and fight Mechagodzilla 1v1, and he's easily learnt his lesson from the first encounter and know the thing to do is to go for the head. And he rips off Mechagodzilla's head. But humans are not the only one who can learn. The black hole aliens have also learned and gave Mechagodzilla a second head under his previous head. Again, just you gotta laugh at the absurdity of Godzilla movies. I love them so much for this. During this whole encounter, there's a whole little subplot with the hero and the daughter of Mifune. The hero managed to rekindle a little the humanity in Mifune's daughter. She asked him to kill her, and he can't do it because he loves her. Well, one of his Interpol agent friends come in and go, "I can do it," and shoot her, and rightfully kills her. And Mechagodzilla completely is without control. It goes pretty much lifeless. Godzilla takes this opportunity to yeet Mechagodzilla clear into a mountain and blow it to smithereen, where he, and then the only thing left is Titanosaurus, who's being chased away. Also during this time, Godzilla takes the opportunity to kill the black hole aliens as they try to retreat by blowing up their flying saucers. And then he finally blasts Titanosaurus into the sea, and we see Godzilla swim off into the sunset. This would be the last Showa era movie, so this was a good one to send Godzilla off with a bang. Let's now move on to Godzilla Legends, a short little comic book that I didn't think I would love as much as I did until I read it. It's about Tristan, a gifted kid with psychic ability. Is one day visited by our favorite psychic from the Heisei series, Miki Segagusa. If you saw the Dave the Diver episode on YouTube, I did. She was the main character in it. They decide to take him to a school for the gifted kids, not Charles Xavier school, because that one blows up way too often. This one is pretty much a government institute where they are trying to harness the power of psychic individuals to try to control the kaijus that run amok around the world. Tristan excels in his psychic training, going from being able to read people's minds to see what type of card they have, making people mind controlling people, to being hooked up to a machine so he can literally reach out and touch the mind of what he described as a monster that is underwater. During this time, it's also revealed that Tristan's been reaching out psychically to keep tabs on his parent. He is, I think, they don't give his age, but he's hinted to be between middle school and high school, so possibly 14 through 16, somewhere in that range. During one of his reach out, dreaming about his parents, he see that they had been attacked, and he pulled a full Acura and psychic his way out of that facility. And at the same time, I'm sure this have nothing to do with it, but a giant kaiju just appeared and started making a beeline straight for the suburb, namely Titanosaurus. Once he get to his house, he find his parents missing, and at the same time he realized, oh no, I just summoned a kaiju that tore up half the city. And then we get, I don't want to spoil it, I'll just say it seems like things go bad for him. Seems like someone just kidnapped a kaiju and a kid who can control kaiju. But I don't want to spoil it. I'll just say he get awakened in the lab. It seemed Miki found him. They decided to restrain him and dampen his psychic powers so that way they can, keep him in check. He did accidentally summon the kaiju. And don't worry, they'll find his parents. Everything will be fine. And I'm sure for those on YouTube, we'll get a little preview. Everything is just fine by the end of the comic. It's all okay. It is truly a good comic. I recommend reading Godzilla Legends if you get a hold of it. I think it's part of a complete edition of one of the Godzilla comic book series, so you can buy a giant set of all of them. Finally, some little final notes. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, the Black Hole Planet 3 leader Koronuma remarks that King Caesar in the dub version say we'll be in trouble if King Caesar bring other monsters to life. And given a cue that King Caesar can resurrect the dead. This had me going crazy as a child because I thought King Caesar was so amazing if it could bring monsters back to life. I later would find out that was a bad translation, a too literal translation almost. Basically, the translation should have been Corrals of the Monster 2. So it basically was trying to say it could rally the other monsters to fight and go up against Mechagodzilla, which makes most sense. But again, it would have been so amazing to see if King Caesar could bring monsters back to life. Make it happen, Toho. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was Godzilla's 20th anniversary film. The suit used to portray the disguised Mechagodzilla as Godzilla was used in Terror of Mechagodzilla. As Godzilla swims away in the ending, that suit they're using is the one that of Mechagodzilla used to disguise as Godzilla. Just a little fun. I don't know if they did that on purpose as a little wink and a nod, or whether that was just because they didn't care about the suit and they wanted to use it for a fall away shot. Either way, other notes, this would be Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla would be the last film Anguirus would appear in for 30 years. It was planned to be in a movie called Godzilla vs. Ghost Godzilla, but that one got scrapped. And then it was also planned to be in a movie called Godzilla X Varan, Baragon, and Anguirus Giant Monster All-Out Attack. While Giant Monster All-Out Attack would get made, Varan, Baragon, and Anguirus would be replaced with Mothra, King Ghidorah, and, well, Baragon would stay the same. We will ultimately not see Anguirus again until Godzilla Final Wars in 2004, so a very long hiatus. He would be in the comics, but never in any film until then. One last note, Terror of Mechagodzilla was the last Toho-produced film to be released in a month other than December. This was until Shin Godzilla in 2016. Just a little note that I thought was really interesting. Never knew about that. Other than that, sorry, Titanosaurus, we'll let you go back to the sea to rest. On. And Mechagodzilla, while I love the Showa era design, and there's very few other designs of Mechagodzilla I like as much as the Showa era, we must sing you off as well. So get on out here. Maybe get something to make your neck stronger so you don't get ripped off by Godzilla. Yeah. Get on out. Other than that, the next episode, we will have one monster left. The one monster that I have been neglecting to do for very specific reason. If you don't know them, go back to the very first episode. But we have, you know what? I've talked enough. I'll let the monster speak for itself as a little a preview of the monster for the final episode for Gotta Go Godzilla Podcast, the Showa era editions. We'll see you all then.